Mark Hayes started at 5 under, and he has had troubles ever since the 18th hole yesterday when he duck hooked into the water, took a double bogey 7, and then when he started today, even though at one stage he had it to 6 under par, he limps into 18 at 2 under, having just suffered a disastrous double bogey at 17. He also had a double bogey at 11. He's had 2 birdies here, however, in 3 days. But like Jack Nicklaus, he's going with a wood where Nicklaus had an iron in pursuit of his eagle.
I think what he wants to do is he wants to bring it left to right, and I don't believe he's going to leave anything in the bag. He's going to try to get some height out of it. Almost looks like a 4 or 5 wood to me.
And he has hit it a little inside out. And he's asking the wind to bring it in. Well, there's about 18 feet of bank there. And Mark Hayes can be thankful that there's that much of a slope and thick rough, or that's in the water again. So in the waning moments of this 1981 Canadian Open, Peter Oosterhuis is in the house with a 1-stroke lead. As you see Peter Oosterhuis in the scorer's tent watching the drama unfold at 18, and it must have been a tough time for Peter to see Nicklaus charge and just miss, and now there's only one contender behind him, and that's Mark Hayes, and we're flashing some finishing scores for you. The Canadian Open does not really have much of a Canadian flavor to it. They haven't had a Canadian win their Open since back in 1954. This tournament was really no different. There were 24 Canadian professional golfers entered, and only one survived the cut. That would be Jim Nelford. Right now you can see Tom Kite in the bunker at even par, and this would be his 3rd shot on the par 5. And it checks up nicely. So Kite, in his last 10 tournaments, has finished in the top 10 9 times. Had that remarkable string of making the cut 27 consecutive tournaments since the 1980 Open. So he is really a marvel of consistency.
The texture of these bunkers and the sand in them and the way they're designed makes it very advantageous for good bunker shots. I mean, it's the same depth. They're raked without the big forks in there. They're smooth. You get good lies if the ball rolls in, and you can really do some tricks out of those bunkers.
And of course, for Leonard Thompson, all you can think of the heavy weighted words of what might have been. Leonard, who shot a course record 62 9 under, absolutely remarkable in this golf course. He did it the other day. Staggered yesterday, began today the leader at 6 under, and he comes in at 1 under par and still struggling.
He's going to the left of the bunker in front of him. That's a pretty good golf shot. He could not get over the bunker without either going in it or over the green, so he left himself the shortest distance for his 4th shot.
So Leonard Thompson, who led in the 2nd round and again on the 3rd round, but finally let it get away here. Now here's the one last desperate shot of Mark Hayes. He has to knock it in to get a tie. No. And of course now, remember, he's already lost his position because Andy North and Jack Nicklaus, along with Bruce Litsky, all finished at 3 under par. He now has to knock this in for a birdie to get to 3, and meanwhile Peter Oosterhuis is spending house money because Peter has won for the first time in his career on the North American continent. He has won numerous times overseas. He's a member of the last 5 British Ryder Cup teams, so he knows what it's like to be in the high rent district. Here's Leonard Thompson. And so for Leonard Thompson, it's more of what might have been turns into a tragedy, because anyone who's sat atop the leaderboard here for 2 days and came in holding a lead, you know, he had a 4-shot lead the halfway through, which reminds us the only other 4-shot halfway lead was at the Masters. And the fellow who had that lead didn't win it. That was Jack Nicklaus when Tom Watson beat him.
You know, you look at Peter Oosterhuis, and he's thinking about his first win, which is gets him into the World Series of Golf in Akron. But looking at Mark Hayes from the double bogey at 17, being tied for the lead, unless he makes this putt, he will drop from tied for the lead in a hole back to tied for 5th with 3 other players.
So this now for Mark, birdie. And I would think it's been a very disappointing hole for him. He has played it so well up to today.
The shot he hit, the second shot, if the wind had got a little bit, it would have been fine, but it just hung out. But he hit an awfully good golf shot, considering he had to go about 235 yards.
Nope. So for Mark Hayes, everything is turned to ashes. He finishes up with a par at 18 and concludes the tournament at 2 under. But it certainly could have been a much different story had he not suffered that horrendous double bogey back at 17. Tom Kite, who found the bunker, you remember, came out nicely and would like to finish up in red figures if he can negotiate about 5 feet. But all of this is anticlimactic. The story has been told, and the winner is Peter Oosterhuis. So Tom Kite finishes up and down to wind up at 1 under par. The champion is Peter Oosterhuis to join the distinguished list of champions of the Canadian Open. And for his first victory on the North American continent, a sweet victory indeed. The colorful closing scenes of this 1981 Canadian Open. And let's go down to Ken Venturi and the winner, Peter Oosterhuis.
Peter, this got to be the thrill of your golfing career.
To be quite honest, it hasn't sunk in yet. It is a great thrill. When I sit back and realize I've won the Canadian Open, it really is going to be something. I've been really battling, playing on the tour in the States. And I can hardly say anything. As I say, it hasn't sunk in yet.
I watched you play Friday a little bit. Looks like you've been working on your game. When you waggle, you take a couple swings back. Someone's been giving you some help, I'm sure.
Well, I have to give credit to Bert Yancey for that. He helped me at Hilton Head during the Heritage. I'd played very badly the first 10 weeks, 10 tournaments I played. And he just said, work on a routine. And I knew within 5 minutes of starting that I was going to get my game together. And I've played solidly. And had some solid finishes without making a good check, and I guess today turns all that around.
What are you thinking about on your second shot, 18? One place you didn't want to miss it was in the water, right?
Well, I knew when I hit my drive I was going to have to go for it, because I did hit a good drive, and I guess the overriding thought is don't hit it in the water. But where I was for 2 wasn't any bargain. I knew I had to hit a fantastic shot just to put it on the green, and obviously I was fortunate and I was happy to make a par.
Well, you played a good bunker shot. Of course, the one thing you were thinking about, again, is don't hit too hard to go over the green, but you had to think about making 5. 4 was not in your mind anymore.
No, I just wanted to hit it close. I'd hit a bad trap shot at 16 and made a bogey, and it was an easy trap shot, as you knew. But to hit it that close and not have a 3 or 4 footer was a little bonus, to be able to just tap it in.
I watched you play, as I said, Friday, and I saw you hit a shot at 15, and you've been doing a lot of work. Bert has done a lot of good work with you. This is your first win in North America, which puts you in the World Series in about a month from now, and you also go to the Masters with this.
As I said, it hasn't sunk in yet. I mean, I was going to have a week off during the World Series.
Well, now you got a chance for 100,000 down there, but to play a golf course like this, it's not a golf course that you attack. It's one you have to be patient. You just can't go out and burn this golf course.
Well, my attitude this week had, for some reason, some weeks your attitude's good, you can accept bad shots and just go to the next one. And other weeks it's tough to do that. I just kept a good approach to all the shots, and I was aggressive when I could be. I hit some good shots. I have confidence. I got a caddy, Mark Gerard, who's been working with me through my out of my slump, and he keeps me on my toes, and this is a great week for him too.
I keep giving you some good news about where you're going. I'd like to tell you what you're going to take, $76,500.
That's quite something. That's about 4 times what I won so far this year.
Well, it's a popular victory, and I'd like to ask one question. What do the Canadians think of their new champion? Congratulations. Back to you, Vinny.
Thank you, Kenny, and heartiest congratulations to Peter Oosterhuis. We'll be back with more finishing scores on this 1981 Canadian Open in just a moment, so don't go wandering away.
Okay.
We'll be posting finishing scores now at the last couple of minutes, and it's always nice to have the luxury of time and kind of ruminate a little bit and put the tournament in its proper perspective. This 1981 Canadian Open had a lot. It had a somewhat unknown in Phil Hancock take the first round lead with a nice 3 under 68. Then an electrifying, and there's no other word to use it, an electrifying round of 62 on Friday by Leonard Thompson, 9 under. That broke the previous record held by Jack Newton, a 7 under 64, and it seems absolutely impossible to shoot a number like 62 here, but Leonard Thompson did. Thompson then stumbled a little bit yesterday, but was still the third round leader and appeared to be in excellent shape for the fourth round. And then, as you saw, some rather disastrous things happened to him, and others moved in, ahead, and over him finally. It was a tournament that saw, you remember Tom Watson a couple of years ago in 1979. Watson had a 3-shot lead on the final round here, only to have it wrested away from him by Lee Trevino. So heartbreak is well known up here. Certainly a case in point would have been Jack Nicklaus. 4 times Jack Nicklaus had finished second in the Canadian Open. Had he been able to knock in 2 putts, let's say anywhere on 15, 16, or 17, he would not have had nearly the pressure that was on him at 18. But if anyone is equal to the occasion, equal to the onus of pressure, it's Jack Nicklaus. And so Nicklaus had this crowd on its toes when he had that second shot iron, about a 19-foot putt, and just missed it by a foot or less. And Nicklaus then, for the 5th time, winds up 1 back in second place in the 1981 Canadian Open. There was a nice touch to it, too, to see Peter Oosterhuis, who had never won on the North American continent, calmly get the opportunity and then shake himself, as well as all of the spectators at 18, including one in particular. You know, yesterday we had Tom Watson hit a spectator on the 17th, and he was visibly shaken. Peter, I don't believe, even now as he stands there grinning, is aware that he hit a spectator at 18, and perhaps they kept that information from him because the spectator who was struck never moved from his position. In fact, he even grinned sheepishly a couple of times and backed away so that Oosterhuis was not distracted. It could have been another story had Oosterhuis had to make that clutch shot with a spectator prone in the grass alongside of him, as Watson saw when he was coming down 17 yesterday. The 1981 Canadian Open was known, among other things, for marvelous weather and tremendous galleries, probably record-breaking. And, of course, for the Canadian Open, you go back to 1904. This was the 72nd, and indeed, it has a proper spot in the crown of golf on the North American continent. It had it all. It had that great round. It had the disappointment of Leonard Thompson. It had the tingling excitement of Nicklaus' charge, and then, of course, it had the sweet pleasure of a first-time victory for Peter Oosterhuis.
It's a popular victory, Vinny, very much so.
Next week, we'd like to remind you the United States Clay Court Tennis Championships right here on CBS Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, and that means 2 Central and Pacific Time. So we hope you'll make a date to be with us. And, of course, I hope you'll continue to follow the PGA Tour on CBS, with Hartford coming up, followed by the Buick Open, and then, of course, the logical conclusion, as the commissioner refers to it, the logical conclusion of the PGA Tour, the World Series of Golf in Akron, and, of course, Peter Oosterhuis will be there. Coming up next on CBS Sports Sunday, the Talladega 500, and that's where you'll have a chance to see Harry Gant, the top qualifier for the race, and in his car, probably going about 195 miles an hour, there will be the race cam, the highly sophisticated television camera mounted in his race car. So there'll be thrills coming up as we see Renfrew the mounted in the upper left-hand corner. Well, that's about it. And now for Frank Lieber, Ben Wright, Pat Summerall, Don Chevrier, and Ken Venturi, this is Vin Scully saying so long from the Glen Abbey Golf Club in Oakville, Ontario.
The 1981 Canadian Open has been sponsored by United Airlines, Fly the Friendly Skies, MaxFly DDH, the new golf ball designed for both distance and accuracy, and by Smooth and Mellow Michelob. The 1981 Canadian Open has been a